I'll ask a question to the room. I always ask this during our presentations. Who in the room has ever heard of the company AGCO? Please raise your hand. Wow, that's growing, and we like that. That's great. So as you can see, we're in farm equipment. We're the third largest agricultural equipment maker in the world, but we are the largest agricultural equipment maker in the world that only focuses on agriculture. And with that, our growth ambitions are to become larger than number 3. And we've got some tough competition. And the way that we view that we can grow our market share is innovation. So this afternoon, I'll share a little bit about what we're doing in order to help our organization develop competitive advantages in the marketplace, and within that, support our strategic goal of growth. So, brief video.
Before the sun rises, before the markets open, farmers begin their day, each one with a desire to make a difference, no matter where they live or what they produce, just like AGCO. At AGCO, we constantly ask, how can we do more, offer more for our customers, our dealers, and ourselves? How can we innovate further, faster? How can we leverage technology to be more efficient, to help our customers be more productive? How can we deploy the right solutions to the right place at the right time? Driven by our vision to provide high-tech solutions for farmers feeding the world, we operate with accountability, integrity, respect, team spirit, and transparency. This is AGCO. We are proud of the work we do, and even more proud to be working side by side with the world's finest farmers. We transform raw materials to produce world-class, award-winning solutions every farming operation needs. At the end of the day, we all have the same goal. Whether you're a design engineer in Finland, an assembly line worker in France, a farmer growing corn in America, or wheat in Germany, together, we'll feed the world.
So brief intro. Now some other highlights to us. We're a pretty young company. We started in 1990, and our first year was about $200 million in annualized revenue. Since that time, we've grown quite a bit. And last year, our income was about $8.3 billion US, about 20,000 employees and team members across the globe. And primarily why most people in North America don't know AGCO is 76% of our business is outside North America. So if you were to go to Europe or South America, most likely people would be recognizing our brands. We also have 54 manufacturing sites across 5 continents. So the major product lines are going to be farm equipment, tractors, combines, sprayers, but also something a bit different for us was the grain bin and grain handling and seed handling business unit, which we bought GSI. We've got #1 market share across the globe. Funny thing about this is some of the equipment that manages seeds, we also manage diamonds, but we haven't been able to find where those processing centers are yet. So, quick view of our footprint. It is dynamic. It is very complex to manage. And with that, we also then have a big challenge, right? As world population grows, as does the level of middle income families that can afford more protein, the demands on the world's farms are increasing. And when you look at what's happened over the last several years, and you go back to, let's call it almost 70 years ago, the average farmer supported 15.5 people. By 2020, that will be up to 200, right? So innovation is driving, innovation is supporting the requirements to help people eat better across the globe. And for us, it's a very important part from an ethics perspective, is how is it that we contribute back to society? How is it that we help reduce famine and some of those other challenges that historically were larger to the globe than what it is today, and we're positive about that. So now let's talk a little bit about our digitalization strategy and why. So as AGCO grew over the years, we had approximately 60 different acquisitions. And with that, we basically would maintain those businesses to operate somewhat independently from an engineering and development perspective. In 2003, we brought in a new CEO, Martin Rickenhagen, who is our CEO today, and we started to focus on leveraging not just the top-line growth that typically comes from M&A, but also your operational execution. And within that, we brought in a couple of individuals to drive a new and integrated AGCO from a manufacturing and supply chain perspective. As our volumes continue to grow through the acquisition or just our business growth, we started to see more and more complexities of delivering to our customers one standardized way or an AGCO way, not only to our customers, but also to our suppliers. So when we started our digitalization in supply chain, from an inbound transportation management, materials management, et cetera, back in 2012, we had some 6,000 different suppliers shipping into our factories and aftermarket distribution centers across the globe. And one of the questions that we were asked from our suppliers is, what are you doing to become more easy to do business with? You have 50 factories, you have 50 different ways of operating. We said, that's a really good question. Two of the sessions earlier, the question was asked, how do you drive your solutions into your supply base? How do you get them? And one of the feedbacks was, you use the Walmart methodology and force it on them. We took a different approach. We asked the suppliers what it is that you would like to see. We already pretty much knew the answer. So when we came to them with the request to participate in our systems, it was relatively easy because that's part of what they were asking for, which helped us. One of the other challenges that we were faced with in supply chain is global platforms. As I mentioned earlier, the majority of our first 15 years, we focused primarily on designing products to be unique. And then as we started to look at the synergies in terms of cost optimization and the other benefits, quality through more high volume manufacturing, we said we need to be in a position to have any supplier anywhere in the world to support any of our factories with a press of a button, not go through days and weeks of setup, but basically real time. So with that, we faced quite a few challenges, and we basically said we need to go away from our traditional way of operating, and we need to take a holistic approach. Where do we want to be in 5 years? Where do we want to be in 10 years? Where will our market strategies be going? What do we need to be prepared to support? Typically, companies right now, and what we found, were chasing to get to where they need to be today, where everybody else is, or where their competition is. We said, we're going to leapfrog. We are going to become the best at what we do and provide a competitive advantage to our business in the marketplace, again, to support growth. With that, we said we needed to take a centralized approach to develop connectivity, develop standards, develop transparencies, and just an overall operating efficiency across our global organization. Focus was basically on transparency. Focus was on cost, network performance, and asset utilization in terms of our inventories, where we have them. Are they in raw material? Are they in finished goods? Are they in transit? Whatever it might be. A lot of these activities were done in preparation for the next phase, what we call the integrated business planning, right? We said for the first several years of our transition, we will be focusing on functional excellence within supply chain. And once we're at a mature enough level, then we focus on corporate and business excellence across the functions. For those of you that follow Gartner's DDVN, or Demand-Driven Value Network, going from 1 to 5, we said we want to be somewhere in the 4, right, at that point in time. And that means we needed to achieve certain levels of maturity. So with that, we had basically 4 building blocks. The first, innovation, and I'll get back into this in a few moments. The second, increased transparency, reduce the phone calls, reduce the emails, increase speed of information. The third was reduce risks. Reduce risk and then prevent risks, right? That doesn't happen in one step. That is earned, that is something that you have to create and mature to and from. And then obviously improve overall performance. The first thing that we looked at was our inbound transportation. And with that, like many companies, even now, the transportation modes or methods were looked at historical looking data. We said we have a very complex organization where if you think of a typical automotive plant, if you were to run a high-end truck, Class 8 truck, and then right behind that run a smart car, that's the level of variability that we have within our product lines. So our inbound flows and the inbound orders, what we produce per day and need in our assembly plants, changes by the day. And as a result, we can't be looking backward. We need to look forward. With that, we basically did quite a bit of discovery, investigation across the globe in terms of what softwares, what processes were out in the market today. And we shortlisted and came across a company by the name of 4Flow that helped utilize what their program is called Vista. And it does quite a bit of supply chain optimization, whether it's inventory, whether it's transportation. And I'll show you some examples of that a little bit later. We also then had to answer the question, do we want to staff that ourselves? Do we want to have that as an outsourced or some type of combination? The selection that we ended up going with was a combination where we would have some of the AGCO people managing the commercial aspects, the network planning, as well as the performance management of our carriers. We also said then, what type of partner do we want to utilize? 3PL, 4PL, neither. We selected a 4PL. And back 5 years ago, when you asked the question, what was a 4PL, most people didn't know. But for us, 4PL has been something that we've been having implemented across our regions for 5 years with great results, which we'll talk about. So what this allows us to do is in one integrated TMS, or transportation management system, have the ability to do our network design, our dynamic optimization, as well as our freight management, exception management, and performance, as well as invoicing in one centralized system across the globe, okay? So if you can think of 3,000 suppliers all using one standardized TMS, what value and what synergies that brings to your organization, it's pretty immense. And when we think about how effective our implementation went, in Europe, our first region, we had 1,500 suppliers. We had 3 that were resistant. 3. Not a bad rate. Again, part of the collaborative approach, how can we become your customer of choice, which is paying off. So to give some examples of what this means, right? So here you can see, and this is one of our South American examples, the typical milk run, right, where you use the same size of equipment each day. Well, the challenges with that is on one day it's full, the next day it's half full, and the third day it's not full at all. So on a daily basis, for instance today, I'm planning and optimizing the type and size of asset that's going to be picking up tomorrow, right? And with that, we saw huge reductions in overall cost, improvements in performance, as well as optimized inventory levels. Another example is on the capacity management, right, of the assets. So because we understand the handling unit, meaning the per container, the weight, the size, the cubic meters it requires, we can share with our transportation partners what our needs are looking forward, right, out to 12 months or as far out as our MRP data is actually blowing things out. So if you think about what that means, you can take a look at that data and see where in the future can I consolidate my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday needs into a Tuesday, Thursday need. Again, more optimization from a forward-looking perspective. And today, with a tight crunch on transportation capacity, if our carrier partners understand what our needs are going to be, they can better position assets, whether that's a truck or if that's drivers, and with ELD that becomes even more complicated, in order to optimize their performance to us. And what we've seen in many cases, it also serves as a customer of choice because we're able to provide another level of data that enables our carrier partners to be more working efficient. And again, that's good for AGCO. In terms of performance, we have fully integrated performance, not just for our carriers, whether that's road, sea, or air. We also integrate our suppliers and how they perform to our TMS. So did they go in by 2 o'clock each day and enter their transportation orders on time? Did the carrier confirm within 1 hour of the automated tender going out to them, right? The RPA that a lot of people talk about, we've been doing that for 5+ years, right? With excellent results, basically 0 issue in terms of data accuracy. And with that, then we also can track which of our carriers are actually receiving which level of awards that are tendered out to them or potential awards. So it helps us understand who says that they can manage it versus who actually does. Another method that we look at is the one transportation system for all of our carrier or all of our direct material suppliers to use. And with that, we've seen improved operating efficiencies as more and more of our sites have gone into this program. And it's helped our, what we call our exception rates, get up into the 90+% on a daily basis from a sustainable perspective, which is about 5% higher than what we originally were targeting. So current status, we've got 35 of our 54 sites globally rolled out. Our South American region would have gone live next week on the inbound, but unfortunately we had a Brazilian truck strike that happened for the last couple of weeks, so things got pushed out a couple of weeks as things get back to normal and food gets on the shelves as the priority in Brazil. We have basically 28,000 transportation orders per month that are operating this system, as I said, with 90% plus efficiency. The next element is integrated transparency with our direct material suppliers. We use I won't call it new, but we use a SAP module called SNC, Supplier Network Collaboration. This is basically how we drive forecast, how we drive releases to our supply base. Again, we rolled this out on a global basis, and the last region that we have going online is China, and that's actually in the implementation mode right now, and we'll have them fully on board by the end of 2018. It's only 150 suppliers. But again, what this does is it helps us drive AGCO as a customer of choice with our suppliers, because we have one standardized way of providing forecasted data to our suppliers, the releases, et cetera, and what our expectations in terms of what they need to do to service us. And we've seen a lot of very interesting activity. This is network, or basically it's a portal on the internet, so the suppliers don't have to have a very rugged IT team in order to support this. What we also have seen is a huge level of supplier interest in moving to more traditional EDI, right? Which for us is even better because you have less human engagement than you would have in a portal. But again, increasing transparency in terms of what our needs are, where are things at, and we actually have the ability to, with the alerts, to say if a supplier didn't ship on time, we automatically get the alert that go to the planner, which helps us drive better productivity and work in efficiency and performance to our assembly sites. The third area, and this is a real interesting one for us, is reduce risk. And with this, just imagine having all of your suppliers, indirect and direct, on one system. And with that, our partner Risk Methods have been able to go out into social media and basically be able to pick up any reference, regardless of the language, to a particular supplier, to a carrier, to a port, to a airport, or whatever it might be, supplier financials, to basically flag when an issue has come up. And the example that I tend to use is a year or so ago, we had a supplier in southern Germany, in Bavaria, who makes 60% of the world's hydraulic accumulators for agriculture and construction equipment. And Risk Methods picked that up on Twitter. And basically, we were able to call the owner and wake him up and say, by the way, did you know that your factory's on fire? And unfortunately, he did not. But we did not miss any of our, let's call it, revenue numbers or targeted customer deliveries as a result of being the first one on the spot to let this supplier know, hey, help get this thing solved and let's develop some other solutions. Now, the piece of that I just talked about is all reactive. For us, where we want to drive to is how can we proactively identify more potential risks, whether it's a supplier financial challenge, and we've heard about that in a couple of the presentations today. Right, so we're at the tier 1 level. For us, we need to get down into the tier 2, 3, and 4. I don't know about going all the way to the dirt like we heard earlier this morning, but for us, it would be a big benefit if we could understand from a financial perspective where our tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 suppliers are. But that is a very, very, very long journey to get to that. Because if you take 6,000 suppliers and extrapolate out what that could mean, it's well over 150,000 potential suppliers that we would need to get on board in our system. So some just quick examples, right, of what the alerts look like. Here's an example, and this is from last year, where a Costco container ship ran aground near Antwerp. Antwerp for us is a very important part. That's where we do all of our consolidation, deconsolidation into our European factories and out from our European suppliers. So basically, when this came up, first thing in the morning, our phone call goes to our freight forwarders or the steamship line, if that's the direct relationship. What's going on? What's going to happen? Where are we at? At the same time, we're looking to how do we secure supply from the source, whether it's an AGCO factory or if it's a direct material supplier. We can see where risks are from a geopolitical perspective and what's going on, and what it does is it raises the flag, raises the awareness, sometimes reactively, but oftentimes and more growing proactively. We utilize then the fourth module, which is performance, right? It's great to have all of these innovative technologies, but how well you actually use them, how well does it actually improve your business, right? That's the key ticket that many companies don't have a good handle on. Within AGCO, we have basically one standardized supplier performance, call it approach. This is the online portal. It's software as a service that we've developed with a Polish company. We call it Apex. And within that, we have the ability to track the direct material, overall on-time delivery, the typical quality type of environment, the risk assessment from a financial perspective, all of the historical challenges from corrective actions, non-conforming reports, et cetera, the savings, et cetera, that the purchasing team likes to do. But also we manage our new product development PPAP activities through this module as well. So we can basically trace back and see how many times does a supplier require to submit a PPAP on time, every time, or not. We utilize this data in our sourcing. So as we start to think about supplier segmentation and what is the right supplier for a particular product line or what I call socket, we have one place that AGCO goes to, whether that's engineering, quality, purchasing, or logistics, that says this is how that supplier is doing across AGCO, rather than just the typical, I'm an engineer and this supplier does a great job for us in developing and hitting my prototypes on time, but they do a crappy job with long-term quality, reliability, warranty, and their costs are high. Maybe I don't want to use that supplier. Maybe I need to call the purchasing or take a look for myself, because we have the ability to look at commodity level performance. Who are the best suppliers, right? And within that, you start to drive towards a much more proactive level of performance based on your historical performance levels. For us, that's a great investment of doing it right the first time. But without the data, in a standardized approach that's globally transparent, how do you achieve that? It's very difficult. So within this, we've been able to integrate these 4 building blocks into what we call the big data funnel. And within that, it's easy for us to determine what's important. What do we need to focus on today in the midst of 200 emails going across your desk? It's the things that impact your business. Then it's those things that could impact your business. And we're transitioning to focus much more on those that are going to impact our business. Because by doing that, it helps affect our ability to support our customer, priority. Secondly, enables our internal customers, our manufacturing plants, to operate more stably, which then delivers better quality product and an overall quality level to our customers that, in our view, can be second to none. Our position is we want to be number one in customer perceived quality, and that starts with the inbound supply chain, as well as the supplier selection for new development. So what has that brought to us? The magic question. So on average, what we've seen across the globe is about a 28% reduction in our inbound freight cost. Okay, that's net of the investments that we've done. And for us, looking at freight costs is not just the tariff, right? That's one piece, right? For us, it's looking at the inbound network. It's looking at the ability to adjust based on what your daily, weekly needs are going to be. It's the ability to basically take the decision weeks ahead to combine shipments and work with the supplier with time for them to be able to operate efficiently and effectively, versus us calling us 2 days before to say, we're going to combine your next Friday and Monday shipment into one on Friday, right? That causes challenge for us, as well as them. We've seen a nice reduction in the overall performance, whether that's the on-time pickup, which is where things start from a freight perspective, to the on-time delivery, which is where things end from a freight perspective. The inventory days on hand as a result of that has gone down significantly because we've got better visibility, we've got better performance, and we have more confidence in what our network capabilities are. And again, if you think about waste, you basically have excess inventory in the system to cover that waste. If you eliminate it through performance, through data, then you can take it out with relatively little risk. So what does this earn for us, right? And remember, we're an agricultural machine manufacturer. We're not automotive. We're significantly more complex than the automotive guys, any way that you look at it. And when we're in Europe, which is where 56% of our business is, we're competing against these companies for the awards in logistics innovation. In 2016, we won the German BVL Supply Chain Award for Innovation. In 2017, we won the European Logistics Association Award for the same project, right? We call it AGCO Smart Logistics. We're going up against automotive companies. We have automotive companies coming to our factories learning how we do things, right? And I can remember the days coming out of school. Oh, you don't want to go to work with ag. It's no fun. They don't invest. You know, it's kind of a dirty business. It's the opposite now, and we're driving that. We love it, right? If we've got time, we'll show you a Google video at the end where one of our factories in Jackson, Minnesota, recently won the North American Plant of the Year by Industry Week, right? Again, the first time an ag company's ever won this award. So when we go back to what we said, what we want to become a competitive advantage in the marketplace. We're delivering that to our organization. So every time now that I go ask for $5 or $10 million to do something, it's really how can you do it faster more than it is about how much it costs? Because we've earned the credibility in what we've delivered to the organization. So it's no longer a question. It's how fast can you do it, and it's never fast enough. But our approach is very methodical in the sense of understanding the tactical levels, the challenges that our people have, getting their ownership, getting their buy-in, and with that, the rest takes care of itself once funding's approved. And it's a good challenge. So outlook. As I mentioned, this is part of our maturity path. The inbound freight, the supplier collaboration, the risk management are only a few elements of the total maturity that we've had to embark on. And right now, we're only out through 2020. In a couple weeks' time, we'll be in Budapest with my leadership team, defining where we're going to be through the 2025. And events like this allow us to understand what's happening in terms of industry. People talk about blockchain, we think about that. We think it's still immature. We think there's a long way that has to go. We think that the participation rate has a big challenge ahead of it. Maybe not as much from a North American perspective, but once you start looking at developing and emerging markets, there's some big challenges just in terms of getting companies up to be able to have this basic EDI. And now you're talking about pushing them into blockchain. Not to say it's not an opportunity, for sure it is, but we say it some time off. So, success factors. I talked earlier about getting people involved. I think that's very important, if not the most critical part of the leadership's role in driving the change management is getting people engaged. And for those of you that are in, say, a corporate environment, oftentimes it's very challenging when you go out to your factories or your regions and say, you know, we want to go down this path. The approach is a little bit different for AGCO. Those people are involved up front, and they say they want to go down the path. And then actually, I don't have enough resources to implement fast enough, right? And for those of you that have driven these type of initiatives, you understand what that means. There's nothing better that you could have as a leader driving major change is that pull from your business that wants it, right? It optimizes things, and it creates a lot of good excitement. It also serves as a great retention opportunity. When we look at the level of retention that we've had, where people have willfully decided to leave AGCO within material logistics across the board, it's less than 2% over the last 5 years. Not to say that we haven't asked some people to, you know, jump on another bus because some people weren't on board with this approach, but we've had very good retention levels. And part of it is because people want to be associated with success. They want to be associated with investing in new and innovative approaches, right? So a lot of people don't quite understand that from the war for talent, and it was talked about from almost every session today, is the level of talent retention is going to be becoming more and more increasingly a priority for organizations going forward. And if we think that right now with unemployment rates at 3.8% is a headache, if you look at what it truly is for those individuals that can operate these new and innovative approaches, I can imagine it's much lower than that. Get the people involved. In terms of the way that you roll out these systems, we operate from a site, then we roll it out to a region, and then those people in those sites and regions take it to the other regions, right? If you're a material planner sitting in Germany, and you get the opportunity to go to the U.S., it's great shopping, the weather's really good, but you feel good about it, right? Wow, the company's sending me over to the U.S. to teach them how to run some stuff. That's a great retention thing as well. But more importantly for us, it's AGCO people driving implementation rather than utilizing outside consulting, which typically within an organization has some level of resistance. And not to say that outside consultants are a bad thing, to the opposite. They're very good at the appropriate time. But one thing that we pride ourselves on is utilizing more and more of our internal people to drive change internally. It has a stronger implementation level. Okay. So that's what I've got to share with you. We do have a Google Glass video. If anybody'd like to see it, we've got a little bit of time, we can show it. Show of hands, who wants to see it? Show of hands, who doesn't want to see it? Okay, I don't see any Microsoft people. So maybe we'll just give a quick insight to AGCO. Here, I think it's the next one.
From smart devices to intelligent equipment, how connected are you to modern farming? AGCO is leading ways in manufacturing to simplify and advance farmers' yields through wearable technologies. We are improving quality by following step-by-step work instructions in weld, paint, and assembly. New hires are equipped with Glass as part of their initial training.
Okay, Glass. Zoom in. Okay, Glass. Proceed.
While Glass-prompted advanced final product inspections drive value to our distributors and consumers, Glass allows us to collaborate and share with cross-functional teams in real time with hands-free documenting capabilities.
Proceed. No. Take picture.
Glass, along with Proceedic software, will adjust the level of instructions given based on an employee's level, instead of a one-size-fits-all approach. Immediate information allows trending of problems with rapid turnkey solutions. Using Glass gives us greater accountability in shipping and receiving.
Okay, Glass, proceed.
Okay, Glass, add shortage.
Everything happens in real time, including picking up and delivering. Using a single source solution, keeping everyone in the know. Tours are more engaging, while AGCO guests are guided throughout the plant.
And when every second counts, advanced technologies like Glass help us deliver that.
Welcome to the wonderful world of AGCO, leading the way with Glass.
So, agriculture is interesting, agriculture is fun. Who has some questions?
So Greg, when I first became acquainted with AGCO, the risk management solution absolutely blew me away. Can you explain how it works to the audience?
So a little bit more, Steve, is where, if you think of it from a DUNS number, we've got the ability to, one, understand the supplier's financial status, right, on a monthly basis or however frequently that you want to update it. So with that, we can determine which suppliers are at risk, potential risk, high risk, no risk, that could be a future challenge for us, one. Secondly, as I mentioned, or maybe it wasn't so clear, is we can basically correlate a supplier to a buyer, a supplier to a material planner, production planner, any way that you want to look at it. So if there's something that happens, geopolitical, the fire example that I gave, whatever it might be, those individuals that are tied to that supplier will get alerts, like the example that I gave on the container ship that was stuck outside Antwerp. And with that, it provides great insight into what the challenges of the day are from a priority perspective. And what we've seen is a huge increase in the level of working productivity in terms of focusing on future activities rather than focusing on reactive activity. So how much time do you spend working on things you choose to work on versus things that you are forced to work on? All right. And with that, it's been tremendous for us. A lot of times, at least in my particular area, before we even go out to do RFQs, we take a look at their financial stability, and if they're even at the level of risk, we won't engage them because we don't want to induce potential risk into our supply network. Good? Good. Others, come on.
Hey, Greg. Real quick, and I make sure I was understanding earlier, when you talked about rolling out the TMS to your supplier network and you had this tremendous compliance, I think you mentioned there's only like 3 suppliers that were not compliant, because I'm assuming they're going into a portal either manually or electronically.
Correct.
How did you gain that kind of compliance? 'Cause I know you must have, I don't know how many suppliers and globally.
Answer the question, 6,000 supplier shipping sites. So, as I mentioned, we basically started letting our suppliers know a couple years ahead of time, hey, this is coming, be prepared. Oh, by the way, you guys asked for this. So we're only doing part of which you asked for and part of which has benefit for AGCO. And it became relatively simple. I mean, knock on wood, what I said, even in China, where typically you've got the Incoterms where the supplier delivers it, we're having to dig into those piece part costs to say, okay, you're going to give me 10% of your piece part cost because of your current freight costs. Oh, no, I can't do that. Well, show me the invoice for what you're paying to your freight carrier. Once you get down to those facts, then things tend to change.
Transparency.
Absolutely transparency. And it also then goes into the supplier performance rating. So if the supplier is non-compliant, that has effect on their overall score. But we didn't have to get out the hammer, right, other than for 3. And they're compliant now.
Got it.
All right, everyone, thank you. Have a great day.